Sure. I don't have to see this. Well, you just wanted to turn it in. Oh, yeah. But I need to cut out. No. Oh, for oh, yeah. I had
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to invite you to sit down and prepare yourselves. My name is Rabbi Bronstein. Some of you I've known forever, and some of you I'm just meeting today. I've known Estelle since 1994, so that's why I'm here today. Death has taken our beloved Estelle. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God. Be with them. For Estelle's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us ever new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. And we continue, you don't have it in front of you, but Holly has it, with Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd."
I've also known Estelle since the early 90s, and when I first told her I loved her, she said, "Why?" "Prove it." I said, "Okay." And that was our shtick. Every time I saw her, I'd say, "I love you." She says, "I love you too, because you proved it." This psalm, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," such a famous psalm. The words are so known. And in this time of COVID and masks and in our mourning, I see this as a yearning as opposed to a statement of truth. I pray that I can feel beside still waters. I pray that I can feel complete and at peace and that my cup runneth over. I pray that I can feel those things. And I know that Estelle prayed for those things for herself and for everyone she loves as well. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echzar, binot asher yarbitzeni, amei menuchot yenaleni. Nafshi eshovev, nafshi eshovev, Yancheni b'maglei tzedek, oy leman shemo, gam ki eilech begeit zamavet, lo irara ki ata imadi, shivtecha umishantecha, shivtecha umishantecha, hema yenachamuni, taroch lefanai shulchan, taroch lefanai shulchan, taroch lefanai shulchan, neged zorerai. Di shanta v'Hashem roshi, di shanta v'Hashem roshi, di shanta v'Hashem roshi, kosirevaya. Ach tov v'chesed, yirdevuni כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני, ושבתי בבית אדוני, לאורך ימי.
So we are, of course, all here to remember Estelle and to hold her family up and to hold each other up. Estelle was ready to go, but her loss is a bitter pill for us all. More than anything else, and Estelle almost dictated this eulogy, more than anything else, Estelle wanted to be sure that I emphasize how much she loved her children and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. She wanted me to say it again and again and again. And she also repeated again and again, I am very lucky. And you've all heard her say that. She wanted to make sure that her funeral was a traditional Har HaShem service, that Holly sang Esa Einai, which she will, and a healing prayer, which Holly will also do. And then Estelle dictated these words, I want to thank everyone for coming because I am so lucky. I love so many people in the room. I hope it's not a rainy day. I don't want you all to get wet. And Holly now will chant Shiviti.
Shiviti Adonai, lenegdi tamid, ki mimini bo emot. Lachin samach libi, vayagel kevodi, af besari yishkon lavetach. Ki lo tazov nafshi lishol, lo titein chasircha lirot shachat, todieni orach chaim, sova semachot et panecha, Ne'imot bimincha netzach. Shiviti Adonai, lenegdi tamid, ki mimini bo emot.
From the book of Ecclesiastes, L'chol zman ve'et, l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim. For everything there is a season, a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Each of Estelle's children are going to come up and speak, but I forgot to ask what order. Okay, Yardena, please come on up.
as I see you all, I know that each and every one of you had a very special and unique relationship with my mom. And I know that my mom had a very special feeling for each of you in her heart. And that's why you're all here. And each of you have participated in creating who my mom is. Each of you shared in her love, her empathy, her care, her desire for each of you to find joy and happiness in your life. And so I thank from my heart, humbly, each of you individually and together, because together you have created a most amazing, loving, heartfelt, supporting, wonderful family and community, which my mom was so happy to be a part of, and which allowed her to blossom and bloom in a way that was wonderful, phenomenal, the best. And I know that she's lived here for more than half of her life, for 50 years. So there have been many transitions and changes in lives along the way. And you probably know a lot of them, so I would like to share with you some of her life before she got here. Because it's kind of interesting to see how much being here gave her this newfound joy and life and heart. Because when she was young, and I'm going to read you what she wrote, she said, from the time I was 5, thank you, till the time I was 12, my family moved almost every 2 years. 2 of my 3 junior high schools were all girls. My high school was all girls, and my college was all girls. In that arena, everything was possible. The beginning of feminism. One of our graduates was a Miss America, and one was a Supreme Court justice. So this is what my mother came from, living in New York City. And living in New York City is kind of harsh, especially when you travel, when you move every, what did she say? 5 times, every 2 years. But then, at 27 years old, she became a single divorced woman living alone in New York City. And at that time in the 50s, it was not an easy task to be single and a mother of 2 children. But not only was she divorced and a mother of 2 children, she was a feminist, she was a radical, she was an atheist, she was against any kind of war, she was pro-abortion, so she was a member of Mensa, so she had all of these parts of her at 27. And it was very hard at 27 being a single woman with 2 children, but she took us everywhere. We went to Broadway shows and sat in the orchestra. We went to eat at Japanese restaurants and sat on the floor. And she would take us everywhere, including to some wonderful music, world music events at the Lexington Avenue Y. I don't know if you know that, but it's a cultural center, and it has wonderful programs. And one time, my brother, I think, was 5, and maybe I was 8, and my mom decided we're going to this program, which she always got, and we were going to see Alatunji. And Alatunji was this drummer, a really loud drummer. My brother was really tired, but he went. My mother said, we're fine. She put him on the side. He fell asleep. And everybody was happy. We had a great time. That's kind of how my mother mulled through her life until she became more comfortable. She met Sid, which was her beshert and brought her such joy. And I remember the first time we met Sid, he came to the house. He was taking us out to dinner. My mom said, open the door. We were just not out of the bath. We probably were not all dressed. And we came to the door, and Sid said, oh, hello, Yardena. Hello, Arnon. He was unfazed. He opened the door, and there was a pink convertible. Oh, my God. We fell in love with Sid immediately. So I just wanted to share with you a few things from her past. We can talk later. But I wanted to thank you. Thank you all for being so important in her life, for helping her feel lucky and grateful and being able to connect with every single person in their own way, in her own way. Thank you for creating this community. Thank you for welcoming us. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you all.
Hello, I am Arnon Estelle's son. Not that fast, though. I wish to thank all of you for loving and taking care of my mother for the over 50 years she lived in Boulder, longer than anywhere else she has lived. I believe she cherished her Boulder family more than anywhere else because she was able to find so many people she loved and that loved her. She always said to me she was amazed at how amazed she was of the love she felt from her Boulder family. It was really the perfect place for her and Sid to live. My mother told me that when Sid was alive, she always woke up happy. I know she's happy to be with him now, and as everyone knows, she always got what she wants. Now just a few memories of my mother. When my sister Yerden and I were growing up, the rule in our house was one person would cut the dessert in two, and the other would pick the piece they wanted. To this day, I can cut a piece of cake perfectly in half. If you have eaten out with my mother, you know of her affinity for extra napkins and takeaway boxes. This was the main food in her fridge. Typically, there was not much to cook in her fridge, just the boxes. I remember my mother not really being an enthusiastic cook, but now I have to say I am a good cook. My mother was a Lipton tea with lemon drinker. When my sister and I were young, we always had milk and sugar in our tea because my mother wanted something nutritious when we drank the tea. My mother was always unapologetically herself and had her own way of doing things. In fact, when we were talking about eulogies, she wanted to read my eulogy for her so she could edit it. Whenever I visited my mother in Boulder, she would always make me go through paperwork to throw things away, telling me this will make it easier for you and your Dena when I die, and again, she was right. Postcards, polished stones, candy, $2 bills, and songs are part of my mother's legacy. Whenever we would go someplace, she said to people she was going to bribe them and then pull out postcards, rocks, or candy. One time when we went to the motor vehicle department together, the person helping us was really taken aback that she wanted to bribe the person for speaking of bribes when I explained that she was only talking about candy or postcards. So it worked out okay. While we are very sad about Estelle's passing, she is where she wants to be, and has said so to almost anyone that would listen for the last year. I hope you all have fond memories of my mother because she loved you all. Thank you.
I'd like to invite one of Estelle's friends. If we invited all of her friends, we would be here for the next 2 weeks. But I'd like to invite one of her friends, David Bernstein, to come up and say a few words.
First, 2 code words, dazzle and ipsy pipsy. You know, whenever, what you're hearing is a little bit of repetition here, but whenever she had the chance, Estelle would talk about being so lucky. She would say, and I'll tell you why, there are 3 reasons. I am so lucky that I had a beshert. My kids talk to me, and I have my independence. She loved her husband, Sid. The times that she would go over there and kiss the plaque with his name on it. She idolized her children. And also her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. And then her independence. And that was why the last several months, and a couple of years actually, were such a challenge. There's a wonderful children's book, Badger's Parting Gifts. It is about a badger who has grown old and knew he must soon die. Badger wasn't afraid of death. Dying only meant he would leave his body behind. And as it did not work as well as it had in days gone by, Badger wasn't concerned about that. His only worry was how his friends would feel about it. Badger has a dream where he goes down a long tunnel, going faster and faster, until he is actually running. His friend, Fox, finds a note saying, "Gone down the long tunnel, bye-bye." Badger had told them not to be unhappy, but it was so hard. Each of the animals had a special memory of Badger, something he had given them that they could do especially well. He had given them each a parting gift because of that. Using his gifts, they would be able to help each other. As the last of the snow melted, so did the animals' sadness. Whenever Badger's name was mentioned, everyone remembered a special story about Badger that made them smile. Boy, can we relate to that. One sunny day, as Mole was walking down a path, he wanted to thank his friend for his parting gift. "Thank you, Badger." He wanted to believe his friend heard him. and somehow he did. Thank you, Estelle. I will miss you so very much. And I am delighted you are where you wanted to be for some time. I believe you are with your beloved Sydney. I'm so glad we had this time together, just to laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long.
I love that story. David is reminding me that we're very fortunate. For the next 3 nights, we'll be sitting Shiva, the first 2 here, and then the 3rd by Zoom. And tonight the family will be waiting for you around 4. The service will begin at 7. And if you want to tell stories about Estelle, it would mean so much to them. So that's part of what we'll be doing. So another dear and old friend, I don't mean she's old, I mean their friendship is old, is a dear friend, Gina Hyatt, who has known Estelle for a very long time and has written some beautiful poetry about her. And I asked her if she wouldn't mind reading one of her poems.
She would have loved this. It's not easy because, like you, I cry because Estelle has left us. But I can't help but smile, even though you can't see it, because Estelle lived. She touched everyone in her own special Estelle way. Estelle and her beloved Sydney and I go back a long, long time. And of course, he was the Razzle and she was the Dazzle, and the license plates on their cars were Razzle and Dazzle. When I would ask Estelle how she was, I bet you all heard this, she would reply, scintillating, scintillating. Scintillating is defined as animated and vivacious. That's Estelle. For many years, I would ask Estelle what the L meant in her name, Estelle L. Miller. She would never tell me. Excuse me. I even wrote a poem hoping she would tell me. She never told me. But just before her journey's end, she pulled me down and she whispered that name in my ear. And we both laughed. No wonder she didn't tell anybody. No. Just before her journey's end, Estelle asked me to type up some little 3x5 cards to leave in her room at sunrise. And on each card she had, "Dear people, please tell everyone how much I love them. Please share my message of love and understanding. All of you have filled my life with love and honor. Estelle L. Miller." So I wrote a little poem for her, and I will read it now. Dear wonderful Estelle, my very dear scintillating friend, with love for you, this verse I penned. I believe we have known each other for about 44 years. We have shared fun times, serious times, and some tears. When I first met the team of Razzle and Dazzle, my life was just about to unravel. You and that really good guy, who is Sydney with a Y, embraced me and my 2 very young sons. Dinner with the Millers is still a memory cherished by my sons. Things were very unsettled in their future, and their future did not look bright. You and Sydney gave them wonderful memories that night. I sat at the table in your warm kitchen, drinking tea while you read my tarot cards. Sydney showed my boys many fun things that night, including your many postcards. He gave us decks of royalty cards to be dealt. The boys, now grown men, still remember how special they felt. I remember one of our very fun lunches with delight. We dressed in jewels, wore white gloves. We took the European cafe staff and patrons by surprise. Oh, the smiles and nods we enjoyed. Oh, the smiles and the nods, and we did enjoy their happy eyes. Lunches with you were highlighted by bubbles you had blown, and your offering of a card in a beautifully polished stone. You have always championed women and what is right and just. For you, listening to and hearing everyone is a must. Our warm mugs of the ever-present Lipton tea, you have gently and sometimes firmly guided me. My dear, wonderful Estelle, as you finish your life's journey, I wish you well. From you, much good I have learned. Now, I wish you the greatest level of peace, for you have earned. As you begin this new journey, I wish you Godspeed. Know you will have left an endearing mark indeed. And when I think of you and our time together, I will smile. I am so blessed to have had you in my life all this while. I love you and I celebrate the woman you are, and I bet in the heavens you will be the brightest star. You know, what a journey, what a woman. And we're all blessed to have been touched by her.
There's a beautiful tradition in Judaism for people to write not just material wills, but ethical wills, wills which state their deepest wishes and prayers for their families and their communities. In 1999, Estelle wrote one of a series of ethical wills. This is the conclusion of one from July 8th, 1999. Dear family, each of you spreads your own unique joy and sunshine. In math, unique means one and only one. Please remember that we are Jews, which means we choose life. Life is good and death is to be expected. While I write this, I am over 70, in basic good health, and have a good life with Sydney. I appreciate nature for its beauty and wonder. God has given me so much. I expect the angel of death will greet me with a kiss, and I will be ready. As Jews, I would appreciate that each of you will honor Grandma Jean, whose yahrzeit is on the first day of spring, March 21st, and Grandpa Sam, whose yahrzeit is on Mother's Day, May 15th. In both cases, their yahrzeits were on fitting days. You may honor them by attending services, by giving tzedakah, by lighting a candle, and or by anything else you think or feel is appropriate. For my yahrzeit, I would like you to give formally to a charity, give informally, and do a good deed anonymously. If you need each other, I'm sure you will be there for each other. This is my most fervent hope and my prayer. Loyalty is who we are as Jews. I have always loved you and did the best I could. I know you also did the best you could. I am so proud of each and every one of you. Be good to each other and to yourselves. Love one another and yourselves, for we are all one. You are my heart's desire. I love you so. You all were my sustenance and my hope, my core and my being. I was lucky and I knew it. I could hope no less for each of you. Hugs and kisses. Love, me, Mom, Grandma Estelle, and Gigi. In a later ethical will, Estelle wrote, "My friends should tell happy stories. I was so lucky. I would even dance down the aisle." And some of you do remember Estelle dancing down the aisle. Tell happy stories and not sad. She wrote, "In New York City, I only knew Jewish people, but here it's much more mixed and richer. What means the most to me about the synagogue is the people who showed up and were there for me. For example, all the people who are here today. I want to thank you for supporting my family. My Beshert Sydney was a great gift to me and for me." The classic definition of the difference between Estelle and Sydney. If Estelle saw someone jump off a roof, she would say, "Dumb." But if Sydney saw someone, he would say, "Oh no, they're trying aerodynamic principles." Sydney always made you better, even than you thought you were. One of Estelle's beautiful attributes is that she kept a list of people that she was praying for who were ill. And when Holly or Rabbi Green said that they were about to say the Misha Berach, the blessing for those who are ill, she would hold her list up toward the heavens. She asked me if the Misha Berach was appropriate for a funeral, and I honestly said I would have to think about it. I didn't quite think it was appropriate. But as the years have passed, I do think it's very appropriate at this funeral. So I'm going to ask Holly to sing the Misha Berach now.
This Misha Berach is a prayer, as Rabbi said, of healing, a prayer holding up someone who we're thinking of in healing. And even as, well, so when Estelle a few years ago had a near-death illness and experience, when she survived from that, I gave her a shirt with the number 18, and on the back it said Miracle Miller. She wore it very proudly, so that's what I called her, was Miracle Miller. And just this past week, as I sat with her and was with her, and when she was still conscious, she would say, Misha Berach, even for her and for others. And we talked about how healing doesn't necessarily mean returning to our physical bodies. That healing, a renewal of body and a renewal of spirit, can be finding perfect rest and perfect peace. And so I sang this to her still, and she asked me to sing this to all of you. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, Amen. Amen, amen.
Estelle was right. Estelle wrote beautiful poetry and often gave it as gifts to others. I especially hope that during the Shiva Minyanim, people who have these poems will share them. With me, like with others, she shared glistening stones and wonderful old-fashioned postcards and songs. I imagine that most of you here have a collection of these as well. In the past, every morning when Estelle woke up, she would say this prayer: "Thank you, Creator of the universe, for the gift of life you have given me. Thank you for giving me everything that I have ever truly needed. Thank you for the opportunity to experience this beautiful body and this wonderful mind. Thank you for living inside me with all your love, with your pure and boundless spirit, with your warm and radiant light. Thank you for using my words, for using my eyes, for using my heart to share your love wherever I go. I love you just the way you are, and because I am your creation. I love myself just the way I am. Help me to keep the love and peace in my heart and to make that love a new way of life, that I may live in love the rest of my life. Amen." Estelle and I once talked about a traditional rabbinic tale. According to this midrash, when the fetus was in his or her mother's womb, an angel would teach him or her the entire Torah and everything that God wanted them to know. As the baby emerged from the womb, the angel would tap the baby right here on its upper lip, and everything that she or he had ever learned would be forgotten. Then for the rest of that person's life, that person would relearn all the important things, the Torah, the deepest principles that the person should live by. I do think Estelle relearned all the Torah in the course of her life, whether by Torah study itself, whether by experience, whether by being on the leading, cutting edge of women in her generation, whether through kindnesses that she showed and the kindnesses she received. In these days and weeks and months ahead, as we tell Estelle's story, let us learn her Torah and share it with others. We're going to conclude this part of the service with El Malei Rachamim that Holly's going to chant. And then I'm going to ask the family that's in the front row to go out through this door, and all of you wait till they've gotten into their cars, and then we really hope that you'll join us at the cemetery.
I ask you to rise as you are able, in body or in spirit. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our Estelle, who has entered eternity. God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence and in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. She's telling us that it's true. It's happening. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And we say, Amen. El Malei Rachamim, Shochem b'meromim, Hamse menucha nechona, Tachat kanfei hashchina, Im kedoshim utehorim, Kezohar harakim asirim, Et nishmat et kibat Shmuel v'cheni shalcha l'olama, Ba'al harachamim yaztireha בסתר כנפיו לעולמים. ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. Please be seated, and Mike, I'll invite you to help people know what to do.
The committal service will be at Green Mountain Cemetery, and we do have a motorcycle escort for anyone that will be going to the cemetery. I ask if you're going to go to the cemetery, turn your headlights on so the motorcycles will know that will be in the procession. We are going to go out on the baseline, take a right, and then we'll have to make a U-turn and come back. So all are welcome at the cemetery.
So family first. And then you all can wait a moment for family to go out, and then you can follow.
Yeah.
Do it.